Good evening. My name is David O'Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director of the Ireland-US Council, and it is a huge thrill and privilege to welcome you all here to the 55th consecutive dinner of the Ireland-US Council at this here Metropolitan Club. Welcome all. It's so important to us to thank our sponsors. The first guy I'm going to mention has been a dedicated and loyal supporter for the last 30 years. He's so many friends and colleagues in this room. I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until I get through the full list. So I'm going to mention them all quickly, but I do want to make a special mention of the Chief Financial Officer of 21st Century Fox, the great John Naylan. He's just a great, consistent supporter. So thank you, John. I also want to make mention of Barbara Coster of Prudential Financial, who does so much to support this organization. I want to thank Tom Higgins of First Data. A special word for longtime supporter Mutual of America, thanks to John Greed, Ed Kenny, and Tom Moran. I cannot fail to mention Elizabeth Crable of CIE Tours, all our cheering fans there. Kieran McLaughlin of the American Ireland Fund. He's the owner of two of the greatest hotels in New York. John Fitzpatrick has been a loyal supporter. I have a few more to mention. It's a long time since I worked at IDA Ireland, and I don't think there are too many people, it's been such a long time ago that they remember me over there, but they never forget to support the Ireland-US Council program. So a big thanks to Emmanuel Dowdle, who runs their highly successful operations in America. The IDA is the most successful industrial development organization on the planet. And a big thanks also to Kieran Claffey of PwC. I want to thank Bud McDonald and Peter Rosenbaum of Ernst & Young, from Pfizer, and they've supported our scholarship program at Pfizer for all of its 34 years. Thanks to Niall Condon. Every year, we see Ira Scheinfeld from the law firm of Hogan Lovells, and our thanks to Ira. We absolutely must mention Alison Metcalf of Tourism Ireland. We're going to move to Northern Ireland, and to show that we're an all-island organization, the Northern Ireland Bureau, Lorraine Turner and Gary Hanley of Invest Northern Ireland. And we could never forget a man who's been a member for so long, our good friend Marty Keating and Jake Latchman, thanks to Marty. Now, I know it's a long list, so bear with me, and I appreciate your support. A great and consistent support has been Michael Brewster of Wells Fargo. We cannot fail to mention AIB, and of course the folks at Belfast Harbour. The chairman of Belfast Harbour Commission is here from Belfast tonight, David Dobbin. We're sending out our thanks and a big welcome to him. Michael Green of A&L Goodbody. This is his 33rd annual dinner. He visits from Ireland every year from A&L Goodbody, and we appreciate the support of A&L Goodbody. Global Access Partners. I must mention Aer Lingus. Aer Lingus have now like 14 gateways in America. 40 years ago they'd one. Well, 3 really if you count Chicago and Belfast, which were seasonal ones. Thanks to Helen McGuire and Jeff Wright who are here. Before I finish, I must squeeze in a shout out for the former Dublin Gaelic football manager who's here with his colleagues, Michael Stone. Pat Gilroy's here from the design group, thanks to him. Thanks to Dennis O'Brien of Digicel, who's a good friend of Dermot Hogan's. You know those infomercials on TVs you see late at night saying, but wait, there's more? Well, I just have a couple more. Langan's on 47th Street, the greatest. There you go, those Des O'Brien and John Mahan. Okay, we're rounding the final bend. We're rounding the final bend. The finish line is in sight here. Last Last mention, I must mention Jim Barconero of Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. He's really the power behind the throne there. Now, if I've forgotten anybody, I apologize, but let's give them all a big round of applause. You know, our former president, who's in Florida tonight, working hard on putting together the program for our winter meeting in 2018. Thank you. Mike Gibbons used to say, in the next half of the program, we'll introduce the other half of the room. No, we're joking. No more introduction. Now, my real job here tonight is like a little like, as I said last year, John the Baptist. I'm here to introduce somebody much more important. The president of the Ireland-US Council, who is so popular, he was re-elected for another year as our council president at our annual meeting of members and directors earlier tonight. Big Irish welcome, please, for your president, Brian Stack.
How about that? If I stand on this, it makes it much easier. You can see me. Thank you very much, David. And don't worry, I am not going to mention the other half of the room, okay? You know, we have a very special evening lined up this evening, the 55th annual dinner of the Ireland-US Council. We are always pleased to welcome a representative from the Consulate General of Ireland here in New York, which over many years has been so supportive of this council. Please welcome Ireland's Deputy Consul General, Anna McGillicuddy. We are also pleased to acknowledge the representative of the Government of Northern Ireland, who is a staunch supporter of your council. From the Northern Ireland Bureau in Washington, D.C., we have our good friend, Norman Houston. We have three honorees here this evening: Bernard Byrne of the AIB Group, Dermot Hogan of Global Access Partners, and Roy Adair of the Belfast Harbour Commission. We will be hearing more about them later on, but at this time, I just want to acknowledge them. Also, a quick welcome and a big hello to the president of Quinnipiac University in Hamden, Connecticut, who is a long-time and loyal member of the Ireland-US Council. But he also wears another important hat, which sometimes, I'm sure, is a bit of a scourge for him. He is the chairman of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade, the largest parade on earth. We say a big congratulations to him and the parade committee in selecting as 2018 Grand Marshal the very popular Loretta Brennan Glucksman. Thank you very much, John. You're very welcome here this evening. Throughout its 55 years, let me say that the Ireland-US Council has always tried to sustain the honoured tradition of supporting and encouraging improved business bonds between the United States and the island of Ireland. This year has been a challenging year on several fronts, but it has been a year when previous record levels of tourism, trade, and investment between our two countries were bettered yet again. And as you can read from our annual report, which we published tonight, we've undertaken a strong program of activity during the past year, focusing on these issues, such as Brexit, which is a big issue for Ireland, and it was a key topic at our spring corporate lunch in Dublin this year. The staging of the business summit of the Ireland-US Council Economic Relations here in New York in March was a critical success and an important initiative for the Council. We intend, during the coming year, to continue engaging hot-button issues in this space affecting business and economic relations between America and Ireland, North and South. Now I would like to call on Elizabeth Graybill, my successor in my old day job as Chief Executive of CIE Tours International and a newly elected board member of this Council, to introduce our first honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Graybill.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much. I'm pleased and honored to be here today. This is a very special event for us, and I'm delighted to add my words of welcome to everybody that's here this evening for the event. First, I want to say how honored and pleased I am to have been elected to the board of directors of this wonderful organization. I'm very happy to have the pleasure of introducing tonight's Cuchulainn Award honoree, Roy Adair. I would like to tell you a little bit about Roy's achievements, and first, a little bit about the Cuchulainn Award. And the Council's Cuchulainn Award is designed to honor people who have given a significant investment towards building relations between Northern Ireland and America. So this is a very important honor, and we're very pleased to be here with our 2017 honoree tonight. The history of the Cuchulainn Award, as many of you will know, is that Cuchulainn is an Irish mythological hero who appears in the stories of the Ulster cycle from the pre-Christian era. So he gained mythological fame by single-handedly defending Ulster from the onslaught of Queen Maeve of Connacht, and the history began there. So this award is really designed to honor folks who have made quite an impression and quite a history of Northern Ireland. Now I should mention here that the council has been very proud and very active to be an all-island and all-Ireland organization, particularly based on our Ireland chapter. So that's very important to us. And throughout the years, the council has undertaken a real variety of activities with Northern Ireland and has made many official trips to Northern Ireland, has visited sites of American investment in Ireland where projects are taking place that are located directly in the region, and has had enthusiastic support from members in Northern Ireland over many, many years. So that is a wonderful part of the council. So we're very pleased to be a part of that. Now, we here in Ireland U.S. Council are delighted to honor Roy Adair, Chief Executive of the Belfast Harbour Commissioners, this year with the Council's 2017 Cuchulainn Award. During his period in charge of the business in Belfast, Roy Adair has managed continued growth in Belfast port trade activities. Plus, importantly, and more importantly for tourism, the expansion of the real estate side of the business. And since 2005, the Belfast Harbour has invested almost $350 million in capital projects, which is incredibly impressive and very important for the region. And this has seen the City Quays development project emerge along the city's waterfront, which is delivering much needed and very high quality office space and hotel rooms, which we're very indebted to in our business. And all of this for Belfast and the regional economy. So these achievements and these investments are making a huge difference. They have also invested in new and emerging industries, which is exemplified by the recent completion of the $26 million Belfast Harbour Studios, which is making Northern Ireland the best regional film production location, short of London in the UK, but definitely on the island of Ireland. So that is going to create a huge industry and a huge opportunity for the region. And in fact, Warner Brothers from California has just signed on as the first major tenant. So we're very happy about that. Now, Roy Adair has been a dedicated and loyal supporter of the council for many years, serving on the board of directors. And in fact, in 2015, he was made Commander of the British Empire in recognition of his service to the international port community and his work for charities. So we're very happy to have him here tonight. The mission of the council, as you know, is to promote closer commercial relations between Ireland and the United States. So our 2017 recipient of the council's Cuchulainn Award has made a major contribution in this area. It's a pleasure for us to acknowledge and celebrate his success. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Roy Adair.
Good evening, everyone. That was a fabulous introduction. I'm not going to keep you back from your fabulous dinner. I've been in this room many, many times with many, many friends, and it's great to be back tonight with even more friends. This organization goes from strength to strength, and I just want to thank everyone for acknowledging me, and more importantly, for the work that everyone in this room does for the council. Thank you.
Now, there are two upcoming events I'd like to let you know about. Next month in Dublin, on Wednesday, December 13, we'll host our annual holiday season member guest at the Intercontinental Hotel, formerly known as the Four Seasons in Dublin. Our featured speakers will be the Chief Executive of the Irish Aviation Authority, Eamon Brennan. We'll also hear from Rhys Smith, the Charge d'Affaires, the US Embassy in Dublin. Council members are free and guests are €50. Now also, this is a tough one. We have a meeting every year in Palm Beach in February, and I know it's tough leaving New York in February, but it's well worth attending the Palm Beach meeting. So that's February 14 to 16. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to move on to the rest of our program. To introduce our next honoree, would you please welcome longtime council board member John Kelly of Hanover Stone Partners. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Brian. It's a real honor for me as a board member of the council to introduce the recipient of our Ireland U.S. Council Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017. First, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to say that I've known Dermot Hogan a long time and consider him a very good friend. The award is being presented tonight to mark the highly successful business career that Dermot has built in America. I think you'll find his background and his accomplishments quite interesting. The Council is also pleased to present this much-deserved accolade in recognition of his commitment to enhancing the business bonds and cultural connections between America and Ireland. Excuse me. It's a unique opportunity also to celebrate his consistently generous support of worthy social and philanthropic causes in America and in Ireland. Dermot was born in and educated in Dublin and then subsequently at Columbia University Graduate School in New York. He moved to New York as a young man and spent over, I have to tell everybody, Dermot, these are not my words, 50 years in business in the United States, principally in insurance and the reinsurance sector. He founded Global Excess Partners, a very successful wholesale insurance broker. His other business interests include a variety of enterprises in insurance, real estate, and hospitality. He started his career with AIG in Toronto as president of Canadian operations. He also worked with some major insurance industry companies over the years, including a very fine firm that I competed with most of my life, Johnson & Higgins, the home insurance company, and served as chairman of the Commonwealth Insurance Company. He's been a generous supporter of charitable organizations and public service projects, including Boys Hope, Girls Hope, the Gaelic Players Association, and the American Island Fund. For example, in the last year alone, he has contributed substantial financial resources that have enabled 4 former Gaelic Association amateur players to return to university in Ireland with full tuition and education costs covered to complete their MBA programs. This major donation that Dermot made also enabled 30 former Gaelic football players to return to college education. His support is based on the concept that education, training, and skills development should play a role in the personal development plans as players transition from their amateur playing days to life's other challenges. Dermot's success is a story of a young immigrant from Ireland who arrived here, again, sorry Dermot, a half-century ago, with little money, lots of hope and ambition, an appetite for hard work, and a belief in the possibilities and opportunities that America presents. He built a successful business career in the United States, started many companies that created employment and wealth for so many people. His success is familiar to those of us who admire the way America rewards an enterprising spirit and hard work. We're delighted to salute and celebrate his success through the presentation of the Ireland U.S. Council's Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you. Once you get it, you own it, buddy.
That's it.
All right? Yeah, put it right back there.
Boy, a noisy crowd out there. Anyway, I've been told to stick to the script and no longer than 4.5 minutes. So, of course, you know that's not going to be true. First of all, I don't know where she is around the room, but there's one of my favorite people, Sister Mary Turley. Where is she? There she is. You know, an old friend of all of us in the old days, Governor Carey, always said that Sister Mary Turley was Ireland's best pickpocket. If she came into your company, Jesus, there'd be no money left in your wallet when you left home, because she took all that money back to Northern Ireland for great charitable purposes. And she's a wonderful woman. Say hello to Sister Mary. Thank you, John. John's a great buddy, been a buddy for a long time. Same business as I was, or I am. I don't know what he's doing these days. I think he's probably moved to Florida like all the rest of my peers in the business. But thank you for this very kind introduction. Sorry if I overspeak here, just tell me. First of all, I want to thank the Ireland U.S. Council for this honor. I do feel privileged to be here tonight, and I greatly appreciate this singular distinction. When I immigrated from Ireland, which is, as John mentioned, like a half a century ago, holy shit, try and make me old, John. I mean, what the hell? I arrived here with lots of hope and with an eagerness to succeed in the United States. The Dublin that I had left had many attractive qualities. Many of my contemporaries that I grew up with have led peaceful and enriching lives without ever having immigrated. Having a great time back there. But you know what? I really, before I sort of got into my parents' business, I wanted to spend time in the United States because it was such an attractive place to me. I just adored it. But you know what? I couldn't get into it in 1965. And I always wonder when I came a few years later down to the Bronx, and I could never understand why the picture of John F. Kennedy was up like this, and a picture of Robert Kennedy was turned down. Then I figured out it was because of the immigration policies that stopped immigration from Ireland into the United States in 1965. So I went to the next best place, Canada. Love Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen. And I worked on construction in Canada, building the subway across the Don River. I remember that very well. Holy cow. I couldn't use a wheelbarrow to save my life because, you know, you'd have to put all the crap into this wheelbarrow and drive it across this plank over to the other side of the water. So I would go this way into the water, and then the thing would go the other side. So holy Christ, what am I doing? Construction. I could never, ever do that. But we were getting paid a good dollar, and I was working 16 hours a day, so we had some money, and I went to sleep early every night. Except I went out for a drink a couple of times with two guys called Pat Hughes and Matty Gilroy. And I don't know if anybody here ever remembers Pat Hughes and Matty Gilroy. They formed a company called Gertrude, which was a silver mine company in Tipperary and County Meath. And they said, you know, Dermot, you should invest in this company, which I did, $1.98 Canadian. And 4 months later, I sold it for $12. And I said, holy shit, this is fantastic. Holy God, this is unbelievable. So I said, well, this is a lot better than construction. So let me get a decent job in the financial business, and we'll take it from there. So I joined a man called Hank Greenberg as a trainee in AIG, but AIG wasn't even involved in those days. But anyway, so that's what I did. And then eventually I became president of AIG in Canada, and because I was lucky, and then moved to the United States, where I really, well, I had moved, I've been in Boston and various other places, but I moved to New York and formed my own company. By the way, when you're young and you hear all the great stories about America, I can tell you is that I was itching to come here and to take on the challenges presented by starting life anew in a brand new place. And when I came in 1980, that's what I really wanted to do. The first thing I will tell you is that even today, as a young man from Marino, anybody from Marino here? Oh my God, you must be all from the slums of somewhere. Holy shit, if you're not from Marino. Holy Christ. Well, Marino was in Dublin's north side. And all those years, I remember clearly how welcoming the United States was for me. I can tell you that there's no more appreciative person than myself to have come to this country and become an American citizen. It is to America's great credit that opportunities to work hard in this great land and be rewarded still abound. I am grateful to America for that, and I have to tell you that I'm proud to be an American citizen. Of course, the state of business connections between the United States and Ireland has never been better, although I will disagree with this a little bit. In the broader context, Ireland's economic success as a magnet for American industrial capital is well known. The US industry has invested more money in Ireland in the last 15 years than the rest of Europe combined. Very, very significant issue. And of course, as I have learned in my career, one of the most important assets you can have in any business is your reputation. I'm sure some people don't exactly, but anyway. I won't talk about my own reputation. Throughout my life, importance of conducting business in a way that reflects well on your reputation, and I believe that is no different for a country like Ireland. 10 years ago, when Ireland's government was struggling with the worldwide financial panic that started in 2007, there was some criticism of the government's decision to make whole all the bondholders in Ireland's banking system. By honoring these bonds, the government took a lot of criticism from the more populist and the lefties. But 10 years on, we can look back and say that it was probably one of the best economic decisions ever taken. And that, by the way, was around the same time when Bertie Ahern and all the rest of the guys were involved. Today, Ireland's reputation in the financial markets is excellent, and Ireland's latest government debt is being raised at very low rates, even lower than Germany's. There's a very positive view in America among the investment community that Ireland honors its commitments and that Ireland's word is its bond. that Irish economic policy and economic management is soundly based, and these do not change with the shifting political winds. This is a good thing. It had good results for Ireland. As I close, I have to be a very good boy and remember my Irish mother, who so sadly is no longer with me. She died in 2010, 94 years of age. I have to tell you all that she was the greatest mother in the whole world, and I loved her very much. I can tell you that if she were alive tonight, I can imagine what she would say if I walked into our home with this lovely and impressive-looking award. With a little furrow of her brow and a glint in her eye, she would say, "Imagine the likes of you getting the likes of that from the likes of them." Now, I'm supposed to finish this right now, but I'm not. What I would like to see is a little bit more, or less, no, not more, less stupidity on behalf of people in Ireland with regard to the political system here in the United States. Sorry, what's that? Sorry, who said anything there? Anyway, I can't abide by the fact that, by the way, the U.S. pension holders and all the various rest of the people in the United States has gained additional wealth of $6.1 trillion in the last year. That's a pretty hefty amount of money to add to the wealth of people here in the United States. I don't like to see the harsh rhetoric that's coming from the Irish government about the American system. I don't like the fact that people are looking at maybe canceling or reviewing the pre-clearance immigration in Dublin and Shannon. There's only 3 countries in the world has immigration pre-clearance: Bermuda, Ireland, and Canada. Why would we in any way envisage stopping our thing because they think Trump is a racist and a bigot because of his travel ban? You know, I mean, everybody's entitled to have closed borders, you know, it's sovereignty. So why would the Irish politicians of senior nature have this harsh rhetoric for it? Why aren't we lobbying John Kelly, Chief of Staff, Mike Pence, Vice President? His family came from Ireland in 1921. Why aren't we lobbying Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy? Who's that guy in the Senate? McConnell. Right. Why aren't we lobbying all these people instead of worshiping Maureen Dowd from the New York Times and inviting a cabal of people down to... Anyway, that's how I feel. My friend Brian Stack.
Actually, Dermot, you let us off lightly. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's now my great pleasure to welcome back to this podium my immediate predecessor as Council President. Can you please welcome a great friend of the Ireland-US Council, Dennis Swanson.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. It's my great pleasure to introduce the recipient of our 2017 Ireland U.S. Council Award for Outstanding Achievement, which tonight goes to Bernard Byrne, Chief Executive of AIB Group, to mark his important contributions to bringing business bonds between America and Ireland. And I think somewhere in the audience, and with all the lights, it's hard for me to see, Richard Pym, the chairman of AIB, is here. And this award also celebrates the success that Bernard has achieved in shaping the impressive business turnaround that he's engineered and led at one of Ireland's largest and most important banking institutions. A key challenge as chief executive of AIB Group has been to return the bank from 99.8% state ownership to the private sector and repay Ireland's taxpayers the almost $25 billion of finance which was used to recapitalize the bank following the 2008 international banking crisis. Under his leadership, AIB Group has returned to profitability and has already repaid $12 billion to the state, has resumed normal commercial lending, and has returned to the equity markets by way of a 25% share sale through a successful initial public offering in June of this year. And those are pretty remarkable statistics. His success in reversing the commercial fortunes at such a renowned and historic banking franchise in Ireland attests to a very real way to his personal commitment to excellence in business. It is also emblematic of the strong recovery that has occurred in the broader national economy in Ireland following the harrowing events of the international financial crisis that devastated Ireland's banking, construction, and real estate sectors 10 years ago. He is a chartered accountant by profession, joined PricewaterhouseCoopers in 1988. In his previous career, he also served as Group Finance Director of the Electricity Supply Board, Ireland's national electricity utility. This happy tale of Bernard Byrne's success story at AIB Group is also a validation of the bold and courageous measures which successive governments in Ireland undertook to remedy the very serious problem caused by the financial panic of 2008. I have to say it is such a good sign to see such a large chunk of AIB Group stock sold back into public hands from state ownership. This is a positive move which will repay Ireland's taxpayers and government for the capital infusion made in those days of crisis almost a decade ago. Our 2017 recipient of the Council's Award for Outstanding Achievement has made such a huge contribution in promoting closer commercial connections and deeper business links between Ireland and the United States. It is a pleasure for us tonight to acknowledge and celebrate his achievements. It is a high honor and distinct privilege to ask you to join me in welcoming Bernard Byrne. Bernard?
Dennis, thank you very, very much. That was excessively nice. I'm not used to that. There must have been many, many more worthy recipients of this award than myself. I can probably think of a number. But I can tell you there's very few who are more excited about receiving it than I am. So thank you very much. It may be a surprise to you, but bankers don't get a lot of awards. Certainly Irish bankers, and certainly not good awards. So I'm really genuinely appreciative of that. Thank you. But maybe thinking about what the award is really about, and what does it mean, and who's it really for. So I think there's sort of three things I'd like to say on that one. I think there is a large element of it which is to do, and Dennis covered it himself, with Ireland and the fact that the Irish economy has recorded such a phenomenal recovery in its fortunes And that was as a result of a lot of tough decisions and a lot of sacrifices by a lot of people to deliver a turnaround. And that worked. And there's no chance that I'd be standing here or that AIB would have managed to relist if the Irish economy hadn't managed to get to a better position. So in some way, this award is a recognition of that turnaround. Obviously for AIB, and if you go back to 2009, I joined in 2010. So in 2009, there was 25,000 staff in AIB. Today, there's less than 10,000. So there was a lot of change, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard decisions by a lot of people. And while the staff in AIB today are very happy to have relisted, there was a number of people along that journey who committed a lot of self-sacrifice again to get the bank back to good shape. So for them, I think it's a tribute. And in particular for the people who were involved in the IPO, the leadership team and the board, and Richard is here. There's a large number of the team from our New York office are here, so I'm delighted they're here, and a number of people who are actually involved in the IPO process, because we've just done some investor work here in New York recently. So I'm delighted that they're all here as well, because it's a tribute to everyone for all the work that's done. So I'm receiving it on behalf of a whole pile of people. Thank you. The IPO was a huge moment for AIB and in fact for Ireland. As has been mentioned, I'm going to use euro numbers because they make the numbers sound smaller. The 25 billion frightened me. I'm only used to 20.8 billion euros, so that's the number I work with. But as Richard often says, if you put it in the context of the Irish economy, that's 10,500 euros of a bailout per worker. So it's a pretty significant bailout just for AIB. So getting that money back has been pretty important. And by selling 28%, as we did in June, it raised 3.4 billion plus other capital already returned, gets it to 10.2 billion capital back. And the minister now owns 71% of a bank worth 14 billion. So that's about 20 billion. So we're really within touching distance of getting all that capital back, which didn't look likely a number of years ago. So that is fantastic. And as I keep telling my kids, when in a small economy like Ireland, 20 billion is a big number. They finally agreed with that. The IPO process itself, we did a lot of travel. We obviously hit a lot of cities. US was a big part of that, UK, Europe, and Asia. And we picked up a lot of information about Ireland, because fundamentally, you're not going to invest in AIB unless you like the Irish story. And so what I'm going to say now is really nothing other than a series of anecdotes based on 1,400 meetings. So there is some statistical significance to it, but I'll leave that up to you. And the reality is that investors, and we'll cover it in this room, is obviously a very warm and receptive room to this story, but the reality is investors do like Ireland. They like the economic growth. They like the demographics, youngest demographic profile in Europe, much more Asian profile than a European profile. They like the culture, they like the legal frameworks, they like the tax rates, they like the open for business attitude, they like its position in Europe, its export orientation, its open and welcoming approach, and the fact that it took on the problems that it faced into and dealt with them. There are some concerns, and a little bit like the previous speaker, politics is interesting, and investors kind of look at the politics every now and then remind themselves that the whole Western democracy is going through an interesting political change at this point in time, so they probably get reasonably comfortable with it. But they can't get over the noise level in Ireland, that everything is talked about so publicly, so openly. And some of the ideas, if you really did convince yourself they were going to happen, you would wonder, how will Ireland ever get through it? And as I keep saying, well, in Ireland, there is the expression, you have to listen to thunder. So there's a lot of noise, but practically sensible things happen. And that's why Ireland is where it is, because practically sensible things happen, even though there's a lot of conversation, which you would wonder about what's actually causing it to exist. And finally, there are a number of threats associated with housing and associated with infrastructure, but there are great opportunities as well. And I think ultimately, if you're an optimist, and you have to be to join banking in 2010, you look at those things and say, I think we're going to be okay. And of course, there's Brexit. Now, I'm not going to get into a very long discussion on Brexit because it is a bit of an imponderable. But I've no doubt that Ireland will miss the UK in Europe. We will definitely be the poorer for not having the UK in Europe. Europe will definitely, I think, miss the UK. It may not always think that way, but I think it will miss the UK. But the UK will definitely miss not being in Europe. And I think, sadly, since the last time I was actually in this room around St. Patrick's Day, not a lot has happened. Not a lot has happened in terms of the formal part of the discussions and negotiations. And it actually seems that they've lost the ball somewhere now, because the Europeans think that the ball is in the UK's court, and the UK seems to think that the ball is in Europe's court. And anyone who plays any game involving a court knows that you should probably know where the ball is. And that seems to be a problem at this point in time, which means we're not going to make a lot of progress. Practically speaking, of course, the world moves on, and business moves on because business makes decisions. And at the moment, business has basically decided it's happening, and it's going to make decisions. And Ireland has been a beneficiary of that, and a lot of US firms in particular, financial service firms, have already started making their decisions. Bank of America, for example, JPM, I'll call Barclays a US firm for the moment in terms of the investment banking activity, all joining where Citi are, Citadel, etc. And Dublin is doing well out of the decisions on financial services firms to move and take a European base, which is going to be based in Ireland. And that's obviously adding to the statistics that everyone in this room knows: 700 US firms employing 150,000 people, with 100,000 people indirectly employed as well in Ireland. But there's also the reciprocal arrangement of 700 Irish firms working in 2,000 locations in the US. And that's another market opportunity as well, and Ireland is always looking for new markets. So I think that reciprocal arrangement is likely to continue to be very positive. And I think when we think of those things, and we think of Brexit, it's just so natural that Ireland is the bridge between the US and Europe and vice versa. We have the easiest ability to understand both sides, and I think culturally there's such a strong affinity between Ireland and the US that it is absolutely logical that we will be net winners out of Brexit, which isn't a good decision, but it's an inevitable decision. So all I want to do is conclude by thanking you most sincerely for the award. It really is a phenomenal honour for me to pick it up on behalf of so many people who helped contribute to get it to this point, to thank the Council for their wisdom, and to wish them every success in doing what is really important work of making sure that this crucial relationship between Ireland and the US continues to flourish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. We're moving on now to our entertainment program. Tonight, we are delighted to have two outstanding musical talents. We have Gavin Ring and Hugh Tinney, who both have embarked on celebrated careers in the world of music. Both are stars, produced from the ranks of the excellent Royal Irish Academy of Music, with which the Ireland-US Council have been for many years. Shh. I'm just going to invite Audrey Phelan from the Royal Irish Academy of Music to introduce them.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing two friends and colleagues who are going to perform for you. Hugh is he's our professor of piano. In 1984, he won the Paloma O'Shea International Piano Competition. And in 1987, we were all glued to our TV sets watching him live on BBC as he competed in the Leeds International Piano Competition and was a prize winner at that. Hugh's great generosity and artistry has led him to share his great knowledge of his work since 1995 in the Royal Irish Academy of Music. And he has coached and created and mastered the next generation of wonderful young pianists in Ireland. Gavin Ring, who's our baritone this evening, is a recent graduate. In fact, only last year he completed his doctorate in music in the Royal Irish Academy. His upcoming roles are, he's already so young, but has a great career, and it's just starting. His upcoming roles include Horatio in Hamlet in Glyndebourne. He has a recital tour in December of France and Spain. He's actually going to play Don Giovanni for the Welsh National Opera early in 2018. And he's making his proms debut in London next summer with the absolutely legendary conductor, Sir Simon Rattle, and with the London Symphony Orchestra. Tonight, they're going to perform for you a mix of Irish and classical. So we've got some opera and we've got some Irish. We have a little bit of Rossini, Largo al Factotum from The Barber of Seville. And then they're going to follow with some Verdi from Don Carlo, O Carla Ciotti, I Moro, followed by Macushla, Macmurrows. And we're going to end the evening with Danny Boy. So please welcome Hugh and Gavin to the stage. Thank you.
Largo factotum della città, largo. La 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 la. Presto, bottega, che la già, presto. La 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 la. Ah, che bel vivere, che bel piacere, per un barbiere di qualità, di qualità. Ah, bravo figlio, bravo, bravissimo, bravo! La 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 la, fortunatissimo, bravo! Fortunatissimo per verità, la 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 la. Rasi e pettine, lance dei forbici, al mio comando tutto gusta. Rasi e pettine, lance dei forbici, al mio comando tutto gusta. E la risorsa, poi del mestiere, con la donnetta, o col cavaliere. Con la donnetta, la 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 la, col cavaliere, la 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 la. Che bel vivere, che bel piacere, che bel piacere, per un barriere di qualità, di qualità. Tutti mi chiedono, donne e ragazzi, vecchie fanciulle, alla parrucca, presso la barba, o alla sanguigna, presso il biglietto, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, con la parrucca, presso la barba, presso il biglietto, ehi! Figaro, 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 ah, Figaro, ahimè, che foglia, ahimè, che foglia, uno alla volta, per carità, per carità, per carità, uno alla volta, uno alla volta, uno alla volta, per carità. E Figaro, son qua, e Figaro! Figaro qua, Figaro là, Figaro qua, Figaro là, Figaro su, Figaro giù, Figaro su, Figaro giù. Prontissimo sotto il fulmine sulla factotum della città, della città, della città, della città, della città. Ah, bravo Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, ah, bravo Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, non mi chiedo, la 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 la, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, non mi chiedo, sono il factotum della città, sono il factotum della città, della città, della città, della città. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to move on to what I call now the meat and potatoes of opera. This is a bit of Verdi. O Carlo, ascolta. La madre aspetta a San Giusto domani. Tutto è la sa. La terra mi manca. Carlo mio, a me volegi la man. Io amor lieto in cuore che potei così servar alla Spagna una salvatore ti scordar di me, non ti scordar. Regnare tu dovevi ed io morire per te. Io morro lieto in cuore che potei così servar alla Spagna un salvatore ti scordar, la terra mi manca, la mano a me. Salva la fiandra, Carlo, addio. Oh, oh. Little bit of a program change. Sorry to announce this, but I'm not really actually, because I'm a Kerry man and I'm going to give you a flavour of the kingdom. So I know you can all dance along to this one now. This is the Kerry dances. Oh, the taste of the Kerry dancing, oh, the ring of the piper's tune. Oh, for one of those hours of gladness gone, alas, like our youth too soon. When the boys began to gather in the glen of a summer night, and the Kerry pipers tuning made us long with a wild delight. Oh, to think of it, oh, to dream of it fills my heart with tears. Oh, the taste of the Kerry dancing, oh, the ring of the piper's tune. Oh, for one of those hours of gladness, gone, alas, like our youth too soon. sweeter calling in the dance than I be more, or a prouder lad than Thady as he boldly took the floor. Lads and lasses to your places, up the middle and down again, the merry-hearted laughter ringing through the happy glen. Oh, to think of it, oh, to dream of it fills my heart with tears. Oh, the days of the Kerry dancing, oh, the ring of the piper's tune, oh, for one of those hours of gladness gone, alas, like a youth too soon. Time goes on, and the happy years are dead, and one by one the merry hearts are fled. Silent now is the wild and lonely glen, where the bright glad laugh will echo ne'er again. Only dreaming of days gone by, in my heart I hear loving voices of old companions stealing out of the past once more, and the sound of the dear old music, soft and sweet as in days of yore. When the boys began to gather in the glen of a summer night, and the Kerry pipers tuning made us long with a wild delight. Oh, to think of it, oh, to dream of it fills my heart with tears. Oh, the days of the Kerry dancing, oh, the ring of the piper's tune, oh, for one of those hours of gladness gone, alas, like a youth too soon.
Please join in with this one, ladies and gentlemen. You should all know us. This is Danny Boy.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
Let's hear you.
From the glen to glen and down the mountainside, the summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. 'Tis you must go and I must find. But can you back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow? 'Tis I'll be in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. And when you come and all the flowers are dying, and I am dead, as dead I will may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say, Another there for me, shall hear so soft